For this week's episode of Authenticity, we're continuing with part 3 of our interview with Tony Folio. Check this out. One of the things you said you were paid one of the highest compliments as a pastor, and that was at your last, after your last service there as the senior pastor at Sunrise. Yeah. Would you like to share that with our audience?
We had a big celebration because I'm passing the torch to my son, who took over as senior pastor, and it was a big event, and they were sharing all the things that God has done, and the baptisms and salvations, and the facility we had, and everybody had just about gone, and I'm getting ready to walk out, and one of our soloist singers came up to me, had just big alligator tears in his eyes. He says, "Pastor Tony," he says, "just look what God has accomplished. I mean, look at this facility. It was an 85,000 square foot facility, 1,200 parking spaces, and we averaged, for 30 years, we averaged a baptism a day. Average.
Wow.
The last 5 years, about a couple thousand decisions for Christ a year." Wow. He goes, look what God did. And to think, you just weren't that good. And I remember, that's the greatest compliment I've ever received. I made that. Because it wasn't anything in me other than Christ in me.
Amen.
The only hope of glory that we have.
Amen. So, you brought up about the facility, and there's another story about you in California, space and that. I mean, we're not talking. We're in the Midwest here. We're in Ohio, and I can go out and probably buy a plot of land, and nobody would bat an eye twice. But you bought some prime. You got some prime real estate in San Diego, and I just want you to share how God was involved in you obtaining that property and how that went down.
Well, this is 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. To buy a piece of land to build for a parking spot for one car, average just for the unfinished, not paved, a piece of dirt, average $10,000 per spot.
Wow.
So do the math.
Right.
If you want to park 100 cars, you better have $100,000, and then you add another $100,000 to improve it. So $20,000 per parking spot. And if you don't have a place to park cars in Southern California, you don't have a place for people.
Sure.
I mean, people don't. I think they drive to their kitchens from their bedrooms. I mean, it's a mobile area. Well, I've always been interested in property. Mm-hmm. I think that's the businessman in me. I bought my first home when I was 19 years old. So I like that end of the business. I was with a friend of mine, and I was telling him about some property that I've been looking at. And he says, "Let me show you." We went to a Smith's Market. And out west, these are unbelievable facilities. Mm-hmm. It was built in 1994 and closed in 95. It was an 85,000 square foot facility on 12 acres, a magnificent building. He goes, "Let's go look at this." And I said, "Okay." So we went, and even the story of getting in, we had to sneak in. So we broke into the church the first time we went there. And I'm looking at, and I'm daydreaming. Wow, the auditorium could be here. I mean, 85,000 square foot open buildings, big.
Sure.
And boy, we could have the seniors class over here, and the youth department here, and foyer, and I had all these dreams. And so we go outside, and there's a for sale sign on the building, actually. And it had the guy's name, Kerry, who was a friend of mine. I knew him. So he said, well, let's call him. So we call, and he said, oh, yeah, I'm in my office. So we go to the office. And this guy's my business administrator, who became my business administrator, says, we're interested in buying the Smith's Market. He says, well, what are they asking for it? He says, well, it cost them $12 million to build it, but they're asking $6.5 million. He goes, we're interested. We'll take it. And I'm kind of laughing. So he calls the people that have the building.
Right.
And he says, I've got some guys here, they're church, they want to buy it. And I'm going, time out, Gary. He holds his hand over the phone and says, there's one problem. I said, well, what's that? We don't have any money. He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, we don't have any money. We don't, zero, niche, nothing. And so he tells the guys, well, the only problem is they don't have any money. And he says, well, we'll come down and talk to them. So these guys came, and what I had found out, they were speculating on the building. So they were in escrow to buy the building just to flip it.
Right.
I mean, because really, you can, anywhere in the county of San Diego, you could be at Sunrise in 20 minutes.
Okay.
So I mean, this is a prime location and prime property. And so we said, well, we'll try to get a loan and such. And they said, well, you got a month. Well, we tried, we couldn't get a loan. So they lost their deposit. The guys that were waiting for us to buy it, $50,000. So there was a Christian contractor in the area, a very successful contracting firm, that my business administrator knew them. So we called him and he says, is there anything we can do? And he says, well, yeah. We'll buy the building. We'll rent it to you. And then after 2 years, you can buy it off of us. And the reason being, it's a tax incentive. If you buy property and sell it at a loss, you can write that loss off. And if you're in business and you can write $1 million off, that's $1 million profit.
Sure. Yeah.
So they did it. They bought the building, and they leased it to us. It's $60,000 a month. Now, I mean, that was a lot of money.
Right.
And so we did a capital stewardship campaign. We raised $1 million to do a remodel. We had to remodel the place. It's a grocery store.
Right.
And after 2 years, we were to buy the building off of them for $6.5 million.
Okay.
Well, they bought it for $4.5 million, which I didn't know. And so we had to get financing to buy the building off, and they could write off as a loss. Well, they ended up selling us the building for $3.5 million.
Oh wow!
They wrote off the $60,000 a month that we paid for 2 years.
Wow!
So we get a $12 million building, increasing in value by then, for $3.5 million.
Wow!
And it's just no money to have. In my opinion, we have the finest facility in San Diego.
Right.
It's my opinion. Somebody might argue that.
Yeah. No.
Hey guys, it's Trey, the producer of the show. Authenticity is a weekly show produced by the team at Godspeak TV, which is the media outreach for the World Impact Network. We have projects in the United States and all over the world, and if you'd like to see more of what we do, download our latest app called World Impact Network, available on all devices.